All right, we now welcome on the program the Barn Burner guys. We're all connected now, man. We got Slim, we got Barn Burner Bro. It's been too long. I feel like this is like a crossover episode between like we got Theater and College Hoops crossing over with Backdoor Cut Show. This is like a Kim Possible, like Powerpuff Girls type of deal. You remember? I think it was like Jimmy Neutron and the Fairly Odd Parents or something like that.
That's the reference you went with.
Yeah, because those are crossover shows, man. What do you want me to do? Like Hey Arnold, Rugrats? Did they ever do a crossover show? That's what I mean. That's kind of what I had in mind, and everyone yearns for the nostalgia of '90s television. So we're trying to give people what they want. What's going on, guys? I appreciate you hopping on the program. What's new?
Man, not a lot. Currently suffering from a Braves loss to Zach's Cardinals, but other than that, I'm ready to talk some Tigers hoops. We just had over 50 NBA scouts in Memphis to watch the guys, James Wiseman and Precious Achiuwa in particular. So it's a great time to be a Tiger, ready to get this thing started.
Zach, what's up, man? You've as fired up as Slim is there. You also got what's his name? RJ Hampton's in the building too, isn't he?
Yep, he's got a preseason game tomorrow, New Zealand Breakers against the Memphis Grizzlies. So might get to see some RJ Hampton, Ja Morant action for a little bit. That could be pretty exciting.
Wasn't Ja in the building? Ja was in the building for Madness, wasn't he?
Dude, Ja's everywhere. Anywhere there's hoops or there's Memphis, Ja's just there.
I mean, who else do you need more than Future, Young Dolph, Ja Morant, Lil Baby,
and Penny Hardaway, and you got it all.
Well, yeah.
The biggest celebrity of them all.
Mike Miller with Bosa's shoes on. Yeah, I mean, what an event! What an event that was.
I heard Mike Miller was like bricking threes for about a minute straight. Is that true, Zach?
It took him a few to warm up. He definitely did. But I saw a picture, like a close-up picture. He was shooting with a toothpick. So I don't know if he just trying to be a little too cool or what was that. But maybe he was throwing his balance off or something.
That sounds so Mike Miller. I can picture him with a toothpick in his mouth shooting threes. It just fits him perfectly.
It sounds so Memphis. It's so cool, man. Earlier on the show, we were discussing how, like, the prim and proper nerdy guys are winning all the championships. You got Jay Wright with 2, Tony Bennett just clean. Look, Tony Bennett, I don't want a raise. Give it to someone else. Like, enough of that, man. I want like the cool dudes. I want the fucking gangsters. I want really fun, law-breaking coaches. That's what I want.
Hey, no laws being broken here, man.
Hey, glass houses, Soup. Glass houses on that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, I all I have to do is look in the mirror.
We are a Nike establishment, okay?
Yeah. Hey, I would love for my head coach and my other former NBA player assistant coach to just be posting selfies on like private planes flying around the country and shit like that. I think Memphis has gone from like a good basketball school to like the coolest school in the country in 18 months, pretty much. I mean, is that probably a pretty accurate statement with you guys?
I think it's definitely up there. I mean, ESPN Plus is even doing I guess it's called a documentary. They're like following the team for the whole year. And they started with Memphis Madness, which they streamed on ESPN Plus. Which I heard wasn't like the greatest. I don't know if you watched it, Mason. I heard a lot of it was just like the Jumbotron. But yeah, you can't like replicate that type of event on television, really.
Yeah, I tried to watch it, but you couldn't really hear the crowd or anything. So it was kind of just like watching something without announcers, which, it wasn't that great. But, yeah, I mean, we're pretty biased. We think Memphis is a cool school right now. So I'm glad to hear that you all think the same.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I mean, how could they not? Like I said, you got Penny Hardaway as your coach. I usually think for a college program, it's like a detractor sometimes to play in an NBA arena. But I think for how Memphis has built their program that they have right now, I think it's an addition or it's a benefit to them. Because you got Fogg and Cameron Indoor and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, those are traditional college, powers with really cool arenas. But I think if you have an NBA head coach and an NBA assistant coach, and you're trying to kind of push this like new, cool, whatever, one and done, especially with all the talents you guys got there, I think it's a benefit that they played in an NBA arena. And I wouldn't say that about, I think, some of the other teams that play in NBA arenas.
Well, 2 years ago when Toby was still the coach, I wouldn't say it was a benefit, but
Yeah, right.
when Tiger basketball is rocking, and this is a credit to the Memphis fans, they can fill up that 18,500 seat arena, no problem, especially with big games. So it's exciting to get back to that point after going through the end of the Pastner era. No offense, Sue. No offense, dude.
That's our bad. Yeah, that's our bad.
No, we apologize for that. He got us national. He was on a national title winning team, so he's good with us, man. You should have a bone to pick with him.
He was involved in a recruiting scandal at U of A too, and he was just a minor one. That was like the pizza party, Subi, if you remember that. Lute Olson bought like some recruits pizza at like a camp, and it was probably on Pastner's card. Actually, that was probably his role, as he probably got that pizza. So shit has followed him everywhere.
Us four represent clean programs. So what you had mentioned, you talked about the Jumbotron real quick. So let me dive in here. First and foremost, I got to get this out of the way before we talk a little bit about Memphis Madness. Zach, first, I want to get your thoughts. What is going on with that basketball court design? That is, for the amount of praise that I'm hearing, I got to bring this up.
So honestly, I didn't notice like the main critique that it looks like, two wieners coming out the side. I didn't notice that immediately.
I didn't notice that at first, yeah. Right.
But I did think that it could have been more beneficial to like flip the colors. So like the inside the 3-point line, I believe, with the exception of the paint, is like wood colored, and then there's some blue that goes from the 3-point lines and connects them all through the middle. I thought they would have done better to kind of invert that and have the solid blue covering inside the 3-point line. Like, to me, personally, I think that would have been a better aesthetic. But interesting choice there, especially with the like camo, or the camo, like tiger stripes, off-color tiger stripes in the paint. It's an interesting optic.
Slim, what are your thoughts?
I think that's the first mistake of the Penny Hardaway era. I mean, how those two dongs made it through like multiple phases without getting pointed out is just amazing to me. You always wonder how things like that happen, like marketing for companies and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the new court. But if we win games, no one will care about it.
Yeah, true. And sometimes like, hey, Oregon, for example, nobody likes their court. But it is it gives them some notoriety. Not that you guys need more notoriety this particular year, but Memphis, the two dicks on the court. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Gonna be fucking opponents, I guess.
So, as you guys also know, we are legit Rothstein sycophants, like disgusting fanatics of him. And apparently, Penny was on his podcast earlier today. So we're just what we did. We got the next best thing. We got you guys, right?
Essentially, yeah.
So he'd actually mentioned, Rothstein said that Penny compared James Wiseman to Chris Bosh. Said he reminded him of Chris Bosh. Slim, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on that comparison, first and foremost? And if you don't agree with that comparison, who do you think Wiseman reminds you of the most?
I think athletically, that's a good comparison, and build-wise. Offensively, James has a long way to go to be anywhere near Chris Bosh's level of talent on that end. I did see from the pro day today, James Wiseman stepping into some pick and pop threes. So that's a good sign to see if he can put that into his game this year. It's really hard to tell. I'm probably more skeptical of Wiseman than most Memphis fans. Just every time I watched him in high school or at the Peach Jam, he never dominated like the big fella from Oregon in Folly Dante did. Every time I watched him, he was a presence on the floor. And with James, there was always a little more to be desired from my perspective. So I'm worried that he is going to disappoint the fans, and his draft stock might fall a little bit throughout the season. I do think he's 7'1", and defensively he's going to be a fucking monster just because at the college level he's too athletic and too big not to be. But offensively, I'm a bit worried about him, and I hope he can prove me wrong.
Do you think Do you think he's an example of a guy who plays better, who would be like a better pro than he is a college player than he was a high school player? One of those type of guys?
I definitely think that's going to be the case. The pick and roll, I think, is more his game. I think his jumper is going to continue to develop. And it's going to be a question on how Penny implements this system. Last year, we just didn't have the talent to really do anything except give the ball to Jeremiah Martin. So the offensive philosophy is still unknown for the most part with talent at all 5 positions on the floor. He says he wants to run an NBA style, but in college, it's not that easy to do. But yeah, I think once he gets to the pros and his athleticism and just his ability to move up and down the court, and also his game will mature. He's only got 1 season in college, and offensively, I just don't think he's where a lot of fans think he is going to be.
What are your thoughts on that Bosch comparison, bro? Sorry.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the same camp with Mason. I know that we can't like literally not talk about James Wiseman without also talking about N'Faly Dante at the same time, because that's the first thing that comes to mind is that Dante is someone that he command the presence when he's on the court. Everything's running through him. I just didn't see Wiseman like take over the game and like be the surefire best player. I mean, he was the best player, definitely had the most talent when he's out there on the court, but I'm curious to see, especially with so much talent that he has around him now. He had a lot of East where, he's winning titles, and some of those guys are on the team now. But the talent level with adding Precious, DJ Jeffries, and we got several really good guards also. Curious like where in that pecking order he's going to fall when you look up at the end of the season, like who was our most valuable player?
From someone not in Memphis, what do y'all think about Wiseman's game?
Dude, I would be so turned about James Wiseman. I'm like legit shocked that I'm hearing some apprehension from you guys. And I don't know, I'll be honest, you guys definitely have watched more of Wiseman than I have. So you probably have a lot more in your arsenal. But for me, I feel like there's just so much potential for a guy like Wiseman to really put his stamp on the college basketball world. And I think playing in the American Athletic Conference, while not like a throwaway conference, I think you could very well put yourselves above everyone else in that team, which I think is going to be your priority number one. Probably Penny's number one is winning that regular season and conference tournament, and then hopefully getting yourself to maybe like a 3 or 2 seed. I mean, that might be aiming a little too high, but you bring in these big time recruits. I think Wiseman during the recruiting process led the way. So I think I'd be most excited about the potential, but at the same time, I let myself get too carried away, and then I get my heart broken in the Elite Eight. So maybe you have it better than I did.
I feel like this is not that their games are necessarily 100% similar, but this is the same situation when Arizona had DeAndre Ayton 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Whereas like we got the number one guy, he's a freak, and he's the most physically gifted player we've ever had on campus. So as the casual fan, which you guys are way more than the casual fan, obviously, but I think the casual fan is, this guy's going to be unreal. He's 7'1", 235, and he's just a freak. So I'd imagine that's what most of Memphis's fans kind of think is this guy's surefire number one. He can do no wrong. We've never had a guy here like that before, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm super happy that we have James Wiseman as opposed to the alternative. And he's a great kid. He speaks Mandarin. He's smart as hell. He's got a great personality. But I don't think that he's going to be a bad basketball player. It's just when Memphis fans think of number one picks, they think of Derrick Rose, who went to the NBA and won, Rookie of the Year and so forth. And I just want to temper our fans' expectations a little bit, not put too much on James.
Well, and to continue that DeAndre Ayton comparison, that was always our thought is like, could we throw a fucking entry pass, please? Can we get this guy the ball? Come on. Why is he not taking a shot every single possession down the court? And I'm sure that some people of the Memphis fan base, like let's say you guys lose a game you should have won or whatever, I'm sure that'll be the number one complaint is, why are we not feeding James Wiseman the ball? Even though you guys have a shit ton of talent on the rest of the team as well.
Yeah. Right. No, like I said, I mean, it's smart. You're tempering your expectations, right? What's that what's that age-old line, right? It's under promise, over delivered. So,
Right.
I think
can't
that
get your
we're-
heart broken.
Subi is the pessimist of this combination. I'm the optimist. I think Arizona's going to win the national championship every year. You know?
Right. Right.
Subi is the guy who always has to drag me down and be like, Taylor, but no, man, that's not how it works. Like, okay.
And then
Yeah,
just
we
at
don't
the
have
college
the track
level, it's
record.
harder. I think it's harder for a big man to dominate than a point guard or something like that.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's not all entirely in his control to use his abilities.
No, absolutely. So I'll give you guys a little insight into how I conduct my job interviews. This is a little life lesson. It's like a money question to ask any recruiter. That you can just ask, like, so what do you consider success in this role? Dude, they love that question. So that's typically lip service for me. I don't really care about the answer. I just like want to sound like I'm engaged and smart. But I'm genuinely curious now with you guys, Zach, and I'll start with you. What do you consider a successful season for Memphis this upcoming year?
So I think the two things you mentioned, winning the conference, winning the conference tournament, B, and then making a run to Sweet 16, I think is kind of where if we get anything past that's gravy, just based on the experience level, and because we're going to be such a young team. But I think that with the talent that we have, a lot of times in college hoops, the talent's going to get you pretty far, especially if you're like so much overmatching everyone. But once you get into that, like past the first weekend, and you start facing against some more experienced teams, some experienced coaches, that's when it really can kind of separate from just having pure talent. So I think, Sweet 16 is like what I have my sights set on. If we like lose first or second game, I would be pretty disappointed personally.
So let me ask you one more thing. Let's say if you do get to the Sweet 16, but you don't win, I don't know, the regular season conference tournament, the regular season tournament, or the regular season conference, sorry, which for my money speaks more than winning, stringing together 5 games or whatever it is in the conference tournament, right? Let's say if you lose one of those, but you still make it to the Sweet 16, is it still all gravy for you? Or would you have still wanted to see that consistent winning throughout the season?
I think I'd take the Sweet 16.
There you go.
I think where we finish up the season would mean more to me than kind of the progression during it. Just being able – we haven't been there, man. We missed that. We just need to be playing in March, dude.
Right.
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 This is the classic. Would you take UConn's success or Kansas's success over the last 15 years? Where Kansas just wins the conference tournament every year.
Would you rather?
Yeah, or UConn just fucked around and won a couple national championships for no reason, but they missed the tournament every other year. That's a classic. Would you rather right there is. I think I would take I know Subi would take the UConn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. And a couple national championships, obviously, everybody wants that. But it's it's an interesting, not to, reference Arizona again, but we just win the conference and go to the Elite Eight every year and have a tournament blowouts every year, but we win the conference every other year, it seems like. And it's always a very disappointing end to what you think is going to be a successful season, where not winning the conference but having a successful tournament run really gives you kind of a good taste in your mouth heading into last year or next year, where it's like, oh, well, we made a run though, so we can make another run this year. Whereas when you lose with 4 NBA players to fucking Buffalo, it doesn't really leave you with a good taste in your mouth for the next year.
Yeah, at that point, it's like you did so much work, but then have nothing to show for it. Even if you have your conference and all that, it's just not the same.
That's
just
exactly
just to face plant on your way home, for example. Right.
Slim, what's a successful season for you?
The last time I was asked this question, I said the Sweet 16. But after hearing Penny's latest comments, saying that we can compete for a national championship with the usual suspects of Michigan State, Kansas, Duke, all them, Elite Eight. Now I'm gonna go another round, Elite Eight. And really, we should only lose 2 conference games all year, even with the majority of our team being freshmen. We're just going to be too talented to lose more than that, I think. So my expectations as the season approaches continue to rise. The more Penny talks, the more hype I get. I'm like you, Taylor. I just fucking jumping in 2 feet in, like, let's win a championship, baby.
So I'm cautiously optimistic about Memphis. Obviously they have a lot of talent, but I'm going to be fully on the bandwagon when they beat Oregon on like the 3rd game of the year. I'll be like, oh yeah, let's go. They're Final Four. Let's go.
That's a big stepping stone. I can't wait for that game in Portland.
That big man matchup is going to be scrumptious.
Yeah.
And that's where Wiseman can change my fucking mind, and I hope he does.
For sure. What were you saying, too?
Oh, I think Oregon is a little overrated this year, to be honest with you. So I'd like to see them brought down a peg. I know that obviously they have, some talent. I just don't see, if you compare the rosters, Oregon is, say, the 16th, 17th best team in the country preseason, and Memphis is like the 13th, 14th. A team like Memphis, I think, has like 10 times the talent that Oregon does. So I see them.
Do.
So I don't see Oregon as being that good. So I think that you guys will have a great opportunity to get an early season win that looks really good, especially as you get down to tournament time. That I don't personally think is as good of a win, but from a national perspective, oh man, Memphis went all the way over to Oregon, beat a top 20 Oregon team in Oregon. I think that'll give you guys a lot of what's the word I'm looking for?
Credibility.
Thank you. A lot of credibility nationally to say, oh, this team's not just Penny Hardaway flying around. Like there's some substance to this as well.
Yeah, anytime we can beat a top 25 team is really big because Memphis just over the past decade has really struggled to do that. It took Pastner like 3 years to get that done.
All right.
Yeah. So we will take it any way that we can get it, whether or not the other team is deserving of the ranking that they're at.
Yeah, and I think the big thing also is that some people might view it as a quote-unquote neutral game, but anyone with a brain knows that that's pretty much
right.
Right. You're going to the Pacific Northwest there, so that'll be a road game. So
that's like what all of Duke's away games are. Duke's away games are just in Raleigh.
So we keep referencing these monster recruits that you guys got, right? I mean, we haven't even said Boogie Ellis's name, which is absurd. But you guys stacked roster. These are going to be names that a lot of people will, if they don't know them already, they will come to familiarize themselves with these names. But I'll start with you, Slim. Give me a name that isn't one of these big-time recruits. Like, give me a name that is going to make an impact that's not a Precious, Wiseman, Boogie Ellis type player.
I think that's got to be Damian Ball, who was a 3-star coming out, fringe top 100 player, did a year at prep school at Tennessee Prep in Memphis. He's a 6'4" point guard, long and rangy, and he went to summer school, and when the team started practicing, he immediately won the starting point guard job. Penny Hardaway says this is the diamond in the rough, and he thinks that this kid can be in the NBA within the next 2 years. So he is my answer to that. He's going to be the starting point guard for this team. I think he's beaten out Boogie Ellis, who may slide to shooting guard or may end up being the 6th man, kind of that bucket getter off the bench, because Damian Ball he's such a dog on defense. There's no way that Penny can keep him off the floor. And I'm excited to see him continue to grow. He's a Memphis kid, so kind of unheralded, had to do that extra year of prep school, like I mentioned. But he is going to be the key that makes this engine run, especially as we're pressing. I think you're going to be able to put him on the opposing team's best player, and he's going to be able to shut them down. So I'm really excited to see Damian Ball play.
Yeah, and I don't even think you mentioned his hops for the Memphis Madness. There's the dunk contest, and he jumped over James Wiseman. So obviously he's like his head's like leaning forward, but he jumped over Wiseman to dunk. So and he was like by far had the best hops on the team of all the guys that competed, and I think Wiseman and Precious and maybe someone else all did the dunk contest. So yeah, Mason, definitely a good call. That's what all the local media has been saying. That's who Penny's really been talking up. And, from the little bit that we've seen, I think that definitely stands to reason.
I mean, for what it's worth, I was getting Dwayne Wade comparisons during Memphis Madness from people who were there. So we'll see.
So then who plays LeBron James? Because we already got Bosh, we got Dwayne Wade.
Oh.
I think that might have to be DJ Jeffries. He's he's a 6'7" wing from Olive Branch, Mississippi, which is basically Memphis. He's got family in Memphis, been around Memphis his whole life. And he's kind of that wing who can handle the ball, shoot the three, and score. And to me, DJ is the type of guy, if someone talks a little too much shit during warm-ups, he might come out and score 30 on you. So he's the one I'm most excited about, but I might just be a little optimistic because he's a gunner, and I like gunners.
Is there a concern at all, maybe amongst the media or even you guys, about maybe a lack of senior or elder statesmen on the team? Because I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but these freshmen are going to be the ones that are going to carry the heavy load, right? So is there any concern about maybe a lack of leadership from a upperclassman type level?
Only one senior on the roster.
And he's going to be on the end of the bench.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, Isaiah Marie. Yeah, he got a lot of minutes last year because Memphis was so not deep. But yeah, that guy, he's not going to be playing this year. Right. But to me, yeah, I think that is like probably the biggest area of weakness that I see. A lot of times in the tournament, at least from my perspective, having veteran guards is really what helps you make that deep push once you get into March. And we have Alex Lomax and Tyler Harris are our two most experienced guards, and they're sophomores. And so really we don't have that experience. So that will be, I think, a chance for other guys to step up who is really the gamer in the class who can take a step when they need to. But that would definitely be a big cause for concern.
Yeah, and I think the leader by default has kind of been Lance Thomas, who has yet to play a minute as a Tiger. He transferred in from Louisville after everything went down, and he wasn't granted eligibility somehow last year for leaving that program. But he's kind of taking the leadership role with the younger guys. I don't think he's going to start, but he's going to be the guy who gets the big rebounds, knocks down a big three, I think. And then I still believe in Alex Lomax. He's a gamer. He's played in high-level basketball since he was like 6. High-pressure situations. He's Tennessee Mr. Basketball 3 times, won multiple state championships, and he's Penny's point guard. So I think when things get chaotic, that's who Penny's going to lean to run the show. I know a lot of Memphis fans don't agree with me because A-Lo can't shoot for shit. But I still believe in him, and I think he's going to prove his worth this year with all the surrounding talent, where he's not kind of looked at to score and make the plays, but just rather run the team.
Awesome. Taylor, that's all I got on my end, man. Do you have any outstanding questions for the Memphis boys?
Yeah, I have 2. And one is, can both of you tell me how to say Lester Quinoa's name?
Quinones is what I say.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
And I mean, we haven't even mentioned him.
No, right. No, I mean, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, right. And then my other question is you guys did one of the foreign trips this year. You guys played in the Bahamas, if I remember correctly. And did you guys were you able to watch those games? And was there anyone? I know we kind of talked about Baugh as kind of that player that the average fan isn't going to know maybe until the season starts. But was there anyone that stuck out in that Bahamas trip that you didn't expect? And was that Baugh?
Yeah, I think Baugh was really when the report started to surface that because Penny had been talking about him for 3-4 months, like hyping him up, and then that's when a lot of the people first got to see lay eyes on his game, and he was really running the show down there. And on the Bahamas trip, Wiseman did not play during it just as precaution. I think was it shoulder injury, I think.
Yeah.
So he sat out for precautionary reasons, and then Precious wasn't able to make the trip for visa complications. So we didn't get to see the 2 guys that were the most hype everyone was excited about. But there was and it wasn't televised anywhere, but there's this guy from there's a big Memphis Tigers basketball Facebook group. So one of the boosters pretty much filmed the entire 3 or 4 games on Yeah, on his phone or iPad or something. It's like streaming it to the Facebook group the entire time. So for the diehard fans, that's where we were watching watching basketball from some guy's cell phone across the world.
That's the guy that you make fun of when you're at the game and be like, wow, this guy takes it way too seriously. But then when he does something like that, you're like, oh, thank
This
God
is the
this
man.
guy's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he got tons of good pub and like he's pretty famous at this point.
So I do have a third question, and this isn't about this upcoming season, because I have a specific play in mind when I am asking you this question. Do you guys have a specific favorite Memphis basketball play that's not Derrick Rose related?
Oh, CDR shitting on Kevin Love, no doubt.
Okay.
I think to me, Joe Jackson when he
Ooh.
stuffed
Joe Jackson. That's a name drop, dude.
who's a guy from
Such a Memphis
Gonzaga.
basketball play.
Oh yeah. It's a
How long
Sabonis.
ago with this? Oh,
Yeah,
DeMontis?
okay.
Oh, I hate that guy.
Yeah,
Okay,
he
so-
stuffed him. He stuffed him at the rim in the Forum when Memphis took down Gonzaga. This is probably in like 2014.
Yeah,
Yeah.
14. Mhm.
14 sounds about right.
So my personal favorite Memphis play is from 2013, and it's the Shaq Goodwin alley-oop. Early in the season where you got one of your guys' guards threw it behind his head, and then someone threw it behind his back over to the wing, and then threw it up to Shaq Goodwin. I mean, I don't know why, but that's just one of my favorite college basketball plays of all time. But that was a fun Memphis team in those days. You guys were ranked for almost all year that year, weren't you? 13?
Yeah, that was when Josh still had it going.
Yeah. Mhm.
Shaq was good. He was never good enough to please Memphis fans.
Right.
He smiled too much, is what they said. He didn't work hard enough.
You hate to see the kids have a good time. You know?
But Shaq, he put his arm in the rim a couple times. He had some great moments as a Tiger. DJ Steffens was a human highlight reel, and he had some of the nastiest dunks, I think, in Tiger history too. But we didn't get to hear you guys from the outside. What are your expectations for Memphis Sub, and what would be a successful season in your eyes for us?
I think you nailed it on the head, Zach, with Sweet 16. I think that is a perfect stepping stone. I don't think people realize how much of an accomplishment getting to the Sweet 16 really is, because if you think about it, or if you get past the Sweet 16, right, you are one game away from a Final Four, and anything can happen in that Elite Eight game. So for Penny to have done this complete resurrection in, a year and a half, it's been tremendous. So I think you're right. Anything past Sweet 16, all gravy. I'm very much excited for the guard play, though. I'm pumped to see Boogie because, he originally committed to Duke, and I think he actually may play with a chip on his shoulder this year, because if you're a Duke point guard, you're going to get all the notoriety in the entire world, all the pub, all the press. But he comes to Memphis, which may not have all the same publicity that Duke has. And now he's also, I think it's good internal fighting going on. Like it's healthy competition for who's the alpha on this team, who is going to be the alpha for Memphis. So those are actually the two big things that I'm looking forward to. I think expectations wise, Sweet 16 and hopefully beyond for you guys. And then seeing how Boogie develops as a point guard.
I'm a little more bullish. I would go. I'm looking for more of an Elite Eight type of situation here. I'm a little more optimistic, simply from a talent standpoint. I know that doesn't make everything, or obviously Kentucky would go to the Final Four every single year. But I really believe in Wiseman. I know that I was really on the Boogie Ellis recruitment because he visited Arizona, so that was a guy I really like. He's a West Coast guy as well. But I'm thinking. I'm kind of all in. I don't, if Elite Eight is all in, I guess I'm all in the conference, but I think that they have a legit opportunity to surprise a lot of people that don't pay attention to college basketball as much as we do. I think that Penny has a real opportunity to show how good of a coach he is, not just how good of a recruiter he is this year. And so I'm a little more bullish on it. I think, historically, like Subi said, Elite Eight games are a coin flip. Really. And so we always complain about how is Arizona, for example, lost 6 straight Elite Eight games in straight up coin flip games where, the talent doesn't always win, the seniority doesn't always win, whatever. But I think if you get into a game in Elite Eight, I certainly wouldn't be surprised if Memphis goes to the Final Four this year. But I'm thinking Elite Eight is more of that range. But I'm pretty high on them, honestly. I think even having them, I think they're at like 13 or 14, like I said earlier in the preseason rankings. I have them ahead of probably a number of those teams above them as well. So I'm pretty on board this train here.
Yeah, and the only thing that I'm always apprehensive about when especially making predictions for college basketball when it comes to the tournament is it's a crapshoot.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, right, Zach? Like,
yeah, you have no idea.
Yeah.
That's what Cinderellas are for, man. That's what makes it so much fun.
Well, and then what type of seed do you guys think we can get? As I go through our schedule, there's not a whole lot of opportunities for big time wins. We mentioned the Oregon game. You have Ole Miss, who fringe tournament team maybe. NC State, which I don't know I have no idea what they have. Bradley, I think, was a tournament team last year, if I'm not mistaken. And we got the Vols and Georgia and Anthony Edwards, who they don't have a lot of talent around him, and then conference play. So there's not a lot of opportunity. And as Memphis fans will tell you, we feel like we always get shafted by the committee when it comes to seeding and have to play like Michigan State in the first round or something, or the second round in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think you're going to be at a 3 seed. I think you'll be at the 3 line because I think the top 4 will be reserved for Michigan. I think Michigan State. I'll be here right now claiming that they are going to be the number 1 overall seed, and then some sort of combination of Kentucky, Kansas, and Duke. I'm sure there's another team that I'm missing off the top of my head right now. So I think you'll be slotted at the 3 seed for 2 reasons. One, I think you're talented enough to be one of the top echelon teams, but the conference that you currently play in, and then, I think you're going to drop a few games. And so I think that's a perfect recipe for a 3 seed, which is pretty damn good striking position. Again, depending on what region you end up in.
Have to beat Oregon in that 3rd game of the year, though. I think that's going to be a huge determining factor on what seed you get, because I think 3 is right on. I think I could even see as high as a 2, but if you don't beat that Oregon team, regardless of how good you might be when it comes to the tournament, I just don't think that Memphis will get a ton of respect as the year goes on if they don't beat that Oregon team up front. And not that Oregon's all that good by any means. That's just kind of like the one game that's going to give them the most notoriety early on. So I think your seed is going to be very determined on that Oregon game, honestly. Not that college basketball ever comes down to one game during the regular season, but I think that game is going to be pretty big when it comes to the national perception when it comes to Memphis.
Or the committee could just fuck you and give you like a 4 or 5 seed.
Yeah, or that too. Yeah, right, or that too. Right.
So Tiger fans definitely need to be rooting for Oregon and Tennessee all season long, except for when we play them. And the most anticipated game of the season is Penny Hardaway going in to Thompson-Boling to take on Rick Barnes and the Vols. Lester Quinones has been throwing shots at the Vols guys who have graduated, Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield. I can't fucking wait, man, to go whip their ass in Knoxville.
Zach, are you going to make the trek?
I am not going to make it this year. I'm having a kid any day now, so probably not going to leave my wife at home with a newborn.
Fairly important.
Any other year, though, I'd be there.
Well, I love it, man. I wish I had known that before because I already gave out my hug for today's show. But next episode, man, that hug goes to you.
Appreciate that.
All right, fellas. Well, hey, thanks so much again for the time. We appreciate it. Go Tigers, go. Is that right?
Go Tigers, go, baby.
There you go.
TG.
All right, fellas. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right.